Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
Here begins the essay, 1932 Kurt Gödel on the completeness of the axioms of the logical calculus, a critical evaluation. This essay undertakes a meticulous investigation of Kurt Gödel's seminal 1932 paper on the completeness of the axioms of the logical calculus. Our focus resides squarely within the four walls of Gödel's argument itself. It is not our purpose to extensively examine the biographical details of its author, or to trace the historical currents that swirled around the paper's genesis, except as they illuminate the arguments presented. Similarly, we will not dwell on the profound implications of Gödel's work for mathematics, computer science, or philosophy, except as these emerge naturally from a critical engagement with the text. This analysis operates solely within the conceptual space defined by Gödel's presentation, judging the work's claims on their internal coherence, logical rigor, and the strength of the evidence marshalled in their defense. We aim ultimately to understand Gödel's work as an unfolding argument, to assess the validity of each step, and to arrive at a nuanced understanding of the paper's enduring significance. Section 1, Introduction and Statement of the Problem. Gödel commences his investigation by framing the central problem, determining if every formula in the predicate calculus is provable through a specific, formalized axiomatic system. This inquiry implicitly engages an earlier completeness problem for propositional calculus, solved by Paul Bernays. The focus is now on the richer expressive capacity of predicate calculus, which permits quantification over variables and allows for a more powerful formalization of mathematical statements. Gödel immediately establishes the scope of his inquiry, suggesting a positive solution that such a completeness result holds for the predicate calculus. This early assertion sets the tone for the subsequent developments, casting the formal proofs as an attempt to show the provability of all valid formulas within the chosen axiom system. The introduction sets the stage for the investigation, laying out the conceptual terrain. There is no ambiguity concerning the objective, the goal being the establishment of completeness. This clarity, a hallmark of clear exposition, allows for immediate scrutiny of the methods employed in later sections. Section 2. The syntax and semantics of the formal system. The second section of Gödel's paper provides an exposition of the syntax and semantics of the formal system under consideration. Here, he meticulously lays out the alphabet of symbols, the formation rules for well-formed formulas, and the axioms and rules of inference that govern the manipulation of these formulas. The presentation is precise and formally elegant. Gödel defines the concept of a formula with a variable, and formulas without a variable, and then moves toward an understanding of the meaning of these formulas. He introduces the notion of a domain of individuals and the interpretation of symbols as relations and predicates. The crucial step is the linking of this formal syntax with a semantic interpretation. Gödel defines what it means for a formula to be true under a given interpretation. Here, the truth of a formula is ultimately tied to the valuation of formulas given an interpretation of the formula's symbols. This meticulous mapping of syntax to semantics is essential for establishing the completeness theorem. Gödel's work is predicated on the fact that symbols, and their arrangements, can be thought of directly by their corresponding meaning, and vice versa. The explicit definition of validity. A formula is valid if it is true under every interpretation provides the key link. The formal clarity of this section is particularly valuable because it is without complication. The building blocks are presented in a manner accessible to most readers. Only through such precise definitions can the later proofs function effectively. Section 3. The construction of a standard model. In this crucial section, Gödel introduces his core strategy constructing a standard model for any consistent set of formulas. The existence of such a model, Gödel argues, is sufficient to establish the completeness of the axiom system. The standard model is built from a set of terms, which can be thought of as a formal representation of everything demonstrable in the system. These terms are built from the symbolic vocabulary. Gödel then defines relations and predicates in standard model, and this is done in such a way that the existence of a valid formula, that is, a formula provable by the axiom system, translates into the formula being true in this specific standard model. The construction is intricate, but the underlying principle is clear. The logic of the completeness proof hinges directly on the soundness of these procedures. Crucially, the existence of the standard model allows for the application of the Lindenbaum lemma, which states that any consistent set of formulas can be extended to a maximal consistent set, that is, the set of formulas is such that adding any additional formula would render it inconsistent. Gödel's use of the Lindenbaum lemma is central to the proof, as it allows him to assume the existence of a maximal consistent extension of the set of formulas under consideration. Gödel moves to demonstrating the properties of the standard model, showing, through a process of careful induction, that all provable formulas are true under the model. This is the heart of the argument for completeness. It proves that any formula that is provable from the axiom system is also true in all interpretations. The construction of the standard model can be seen as the most important step in the proof, and it is done with a degree of meticulous. Section 4. The completeness of the axiom system. This section houses the climax of Gödel's argument. Having established the framework and built the standard model, Gödel is now prepared to demonstrate that if a formula is valid, then it is also provable within the axiomatic system. This is the completeness result. Gödel proceeds by contradiction. Assume that there exists a valid formula, which is not provable. This means the set of all provable formulas combined with the negation of the unprovable valid formula is consistent. From this he can show that, using the standard model and the argument from the previous section, that the negation of that formula is true in the standard model. This contradicts the fact that any valid formula must be true for all possible interpretations. Thus, there can be no valid, unprovable formulas. Gödel shows, then, that if a formula is valid, it must be provable, hence the completeness. The arguments in this section are a logical consequence from what has gone before, using the techniques that were introduced with care so that the concepts remain clear. The formal proofs, while complex, rely entirely on the previously established definitions and constructions. Completeness is, therefore, achieved because for every valid formula there is a proof available. Section 5. Alternative proofs and variations. Gödel acknowledges and briefly touches upon the possibility of alternative proofs and variations of the completeness theorem. This suggests an awareness that the proof he has presented is not the only possible route to the same conclusion. While he offers no detailed exploration of these alternative approaches, his recognition of their existence highlights the fact that the essence of completeness can be demonstrated through different methodologies. This acknowledgement is an indication of strength. It suggests that Gödel sees the completeness result as a robust conclusion, one that can be reached through several approaches. Section 6. Implications and conclusions. In the concluding section, Gödel summarizes the principal results of his paper. He restates the completeness theorem. He does not dwell on the philosophical ramifications of the result, but it is implied that the work settles the question he raised. A valid formula is also provable, a conclusion which is the very definition of completeness. There is a sense of closure. The initial problem is answered with precision. Gödel concludes the essay with a brief discussion of potential future directions, such as the investigation of analogous completeness results for different axiomatic systems. Section 7. Critical evaluation of core claims. The central claim of Gödel's paper, namely that the predicate calculus contains all provable formulas which are valid, derives from established logical principles. Beginning in the foundations, Gödel defines the syntax and semantics of the system with meticulous care. He makes explicit the rules and definitions that allow for the interpretation of the formulas. The construction of the standard model is a critical step in the proof. This novel approach provides a concrete representation of the formulas. In that model, the model's ability to bridge the formal syntax and the interpretation of a formula makes the completeness result achievable. The logical rigor of the proof, depending on careful induction and the application of the Lindenbaum lemma, ensures that all provable formulas are valid in all interpretations. Gödel's use of proof by contradiction provides a clear and concise way to demonstrate that all valid formulas are, in fact, provable. The conclusion directly follows from the formal manipulations and the construction of the structure of the standard model, the methodology, the employment of established techniques, and the logical progression of the arguments all contribute to the validity of the central claim. Section 8. Logical coherence and internal consistency. The paper's internal consistency is remarkable. Every claim is supported by the prior constructions. The language is precise and without ambiguity. The definitions allow a clear path from the axioms in the beginning to the conclusions at the end. Each step in the argument is carefully justified, making it easy to follow the logical flow. The construction of the standard model, a central mechanism within the argument, is done in a manner that ensures its consistency with the formal system. The utilization of the Lindenbaum lemma provides a solid foundation for the subsequent proofs. The logical structure holds together. The relationships between the various components are established with clarity. The logical framework is consistent, relying on the definitions that are developed in the initial sections. Section 9. Strengths of the methodology. The methodology used by Gödel possesses several substantial strengths. The rigorous formalization of the problem, with explicit definitions of syntax and semantics, ensures clarity and eliminates ambiguity. The utilization of the standard model, constructed from terms, provides a concrete representation of the formulas, allowing Gödel to make a direct link between the formal system and the interpretation of the formulas. The proof by contradiction, a commonly used method in mathematics, provides a concise and effective path to establish the completeness theorem. The application of the Lindenbaum lemma, a well-established result in the field, provides a firm foundation for the construction of the proofs. The reliance on mathematical induction, a robust methodology for proving properties in mathematics, is essential in moving from the axioms to the conclusions. These methodological choices are well suited to the problem at hand. Section 10. Weaknesses and potential criticisms. While the paper displays substantial rigor, certain criticisms, though not weaknesses in the proofs themselves, are worthy of consideration. The completeness theorem does not provide a method to identify the specific proof of the valid formula. A different system might generate different results. The argument might be interpreted as theoretical, with the actual application of the formal system, rather than the formal manipulation itself, being the heart of the matter. The paper does not address the issue of computational efficiency. It does not offer ideas for how quickly a proof can be demonstrated. These are criticisms, yet not weaknesses. Section 11. The work's relationship to prior and subsequent developments. Gödel's 1932 paper builds upon the foundations laid by earlier logicians, specifically the work of Frege, Mussel, and Whitehead, who sought to formalize logic and mathematics. Its impact reverberated throughout mathematics, logic, and computer science. The completeness theorem directly influenced the development of automated theorem provers and the study of formal languages. Gödel's later work, particularly his incompleteness theorems, stands with the paper. The completeness result provided a necessary backdrop for these later, more famous results. Gödel's paper, therefore, did not exist in isolation. It built upon earlier advances in mathematical logic. The influence exerted on subsequent works is not to be underestimated. Gödel's paper serves as a stepping stone toward a better understanding of the nature and limitations of formal systems. Section 12. Historical context and reception. The paper was published at a time of great ferment in logic and mathematics. The formalization of mathematics was a central topic. and the completeness result was received with acclaim. The clarity of Gödel's presentation helped to ensure its acceptance. The significance of the work was quickly appreciated. The completeness theorem demonstrated the power of formal systems to represent mathematical statements, providing an important contribution toward the study of the foundations of mathematics. Section 13. Enduring Significance and Legacy. The enduring significance of Gödel's 1932 paper derives from its fundamental contributions to the understanding of formal systems. It demonstrated that any valid formula is provable within the axioms. This established a crucial property of the predicate calculus and paved the way for future inquiries into the nature of provability and computability. Gödel's work has impacted numerous fields, including computer science. The completeness theorem remains a cornerstone of mathematical logic. Section 14. Conclusion. A synthesis of the evaluation. In conclusion, Gödel's 1932 paper on the completeness of the axioms of the logical calculus stands as a landmark achievement in mathematical logic. The central claim is clearly established: the logical coherence of the arguments, from syntax to semantics, is impeccable. The use of the standard model and other methodologies contributes to the proof's strength. The internal criticisms are noted without undermining the main contribution. The work's relationship to prior works and subsequent developments is carefully considered. The enduring significance of the completeness theorem is clear. The paper stands as a demonstration of the efficacy of rigorous formal methods. It provided essential insight into the nature of formal systems, which has left an indelible mark on 20th century thought and continues to shape the landscape of mathematics, computer science, and philosophy.
We really appreciate you tuning in to this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.